Srividya, can you enable me to share the screen?
Yes, sir. It is shared, sir.
Yeah. So can you see the presentation now?
Yes, sir.
Shall we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Fine.
sir. Yes, sir.
Now, I hope you understood what is proprioceptors. Okay. So these are the proprioceptors which makes us aware where our body is moving. Okay. So we then reciprocal innervation. What is reciprocal innervation? Any idea about it? Any idea? Any one of you? Reciprocal innervation. Either you can communicate through chat box or you can even unmute and say. Okay, I'll continue. So muscles are always acting in pairs. Any muscle in the body will always act in pairs. What do you mean by pair? When you say biceps, what is the pair of biceps? What is the pair of biceps? No answer?
Triceps.
Okay. Triceps. Good, very good. So similarly, what is the pair of quadriceps? The pair of quadriceps is okay. So each and every segment is having, for an example, we say hip flexors, iliac psoas, we say. So for the hip flexors are called as iliac psoas. The iliac psoas pair I mean the pair of iliac psoas is gluteus maximus, the gluteus muscles. Okay. The pair of quadriceps is hamstrings. The pair of tibialis anterior is gastrocnemius. Right? So the muscles always act in pairs. That is the one information, one principle a yoga professional should always keep in mind. Why? Because when one muscle contracts, the opposite pair relaxes. Right? When one muscle concentrically contracts, the opposite pair eccentrically contracts. That means when one muscle shortens, its pair relaxes. That's all. When the one pair of a muscle contracts, for an example, when the biceps contracts, the triceps relaxes. Similarly, you can see the positive and negative information, I mean the sign given here. See, the blue line indicates, right? So I just show you here. What is the name of this asana? I should not ask you this question. Okay, this is Paschimottanasana. Am I right? Paschimottanasana, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So in Paschimottanasana, what is the movement of knee here? Well, knee can flex or extend. Okay. So now whether the knee is flexed or extended?
Extended.
Extended. For extension of knee, which muscle is responsible?
Either my femur and
No. Which muscle?
my
So we have only two muscles here. The knee can be extended or flexed. Only two movements are possible in knee as far as major movements are concerned. Okay. So to extend the knee, we have quadriceps, the front thigh muscle. To flex the knee, right, we have hamstrings. Now, I told you about the reciprocal innervation. Quadriceps and hamstrings are pair of muscles. Okay. Now the knee is extended for the knee. Am I right? Whether the knee is extended or flexed?
Extended.
Extended. For extension of knee, which muscle is responsible?
The upper muscle.
Quadriceps.
Quadriceps.
Okay. Yeah. When the quadriceps contracts, when the quadriceps shortens from its length, which muscle will lengthen?
My what is it? Fundus.
No. What is this muscle? Yes, hamstrings. This is written theory. There is no change at all. When quadriceps contracts, the hamstring will relax. When the hamstring contracts, that means shortens from its length. Okay. When the hamstring contracts, quadriceps will relax. This is the written theory. This is what is already printed. It is already there in the brain. Okay. Simultaneously, a pair of muscle, for an example, quadriceps and hamstring, will never ever contract simultaneously or shorten simultaneously. If it is happening, that means there is a possibility for injury. Okay. So the brain itself communicate through its nerves to the muscles. Okay. When the quadriceps contract, the hamstring supposed to relax. That's why when you do Paschimottanasana, which muscle is lengthened, which muscle is stretched in the knee?
Quadriceps.
What? I told you only two muscles. One is quadriceps, another one is hamstrings. For knee extension, quadriceps has to shorten. When you do stretching, muscle will never ever shorten. During stretching or any performing any asana, this muscle, the muscle will lengthen from its length. That means elongation or relaxation or eccentric contraction. Okay. So here, the hamstring relaxes or being stretched and quadriceps is shortened. Okay. This is one asana. Okay, fine. That's why the brain sends the communication that, okay, the plus communication is coming to the quadriceps. What it conveys? Okay, because brain only can control our body movement. The brain says, okay, quadriceps, you shorten from your length. And simultaneously, it also sends another communication to the hamstrings. Hamstrings, the quadriceps is contracting, you're supposed to relax. Right? And simultaneously, for an example, when you sit in Vajrasana, right? What is the movement of knee joint? Vajrasana.
It's a
Flexion.
Flexion. Good. Beautiful. So for flexion, which muscle is responsible?
My
Hamstring.
Hamstring.
No.
Very good. Very beautiful. Yeah. So when hamstring shortens from its length, which muscle will lengthen or relax? What is the pair of hamstrings? Quadriceps. That's all. Great. Great. You understood. Perfect. Thank you. So this is what? This is how any asana, at the end of the slide, I will tell you how to analyze qualitatively and quantitatively with regard to biomechanics perspective. Okay. That's what we are going to see here. Fine. So you know what is reciprocal innervation. Reciprocal innervation or inhibition is nothing but the brain conveys the message that if one muscle contracts, its pair or the opposite group of muscle should relax. So that is the message, or this is the basic science principle here. Okay. So planes and axis. And what already we have discussed about planes and axis. Okay. So you should know the planes of motion, axis of rotation, and you should combine. For example, sagittal plane movement. Sagittal plane movement. What are the sagittal plane movements? Flexion, extension. For sagittal plane movement, by default, the axis is right frontal axis. For frontal plane movement, the axis is sagittal axis. For transverse plane movement, that is rotation, it is the axis is vertical axis. Always planes and axis are right perpendicular each other. Perpendicular to each other means its relationship is 90 degree. So you can see the sagittal plane. The sagittal plane divides the body into right and left half equally, and transverse plane divides the body into upper and lower half equally, right? So the frontal plane, which divides the body into front and back. That means anterior and posterior. Similarly, you can see the axis too. Okay. Now we come to the types of muscle contractions. Muscles can contract in 3 ways, but as far as yoga professionals are concerned, the information with regard to 2 is enough. one is isotonic, another one is isometric. For an example, in any form of exercise, right, any sportsman, they'll perform either isotonic, that is dynamic movement, flexion extension. You take, right, you take one dumbbell and flex your elbow and extend it, that is dynamic. Okay, when you flex, your muscle shortens. When the muscle is shortening and generate force, that is called concentric contraction. I can just show you here. See, when the muscle shortens, whether the muscle shortens from its length when you flex your elbow, yes. When the muscle shortens, concentric. What is concentric? Con means shorten. The muscle short, both the end of the muscle shorten towards its length. Okay, and second one is eccentric. Eccentric means the muscle elongates, stretches further from its normal length. Okay, so concentric and eccentric contractions are two subphases of isotonic contraction. So what is isotonic muscle contraction? Muscle shortens during movement. So there are two types of contraction during isotonic muscle contraction. One is concentric, that means when you flex, your biceps shortens. When you extend, your biceps extends. Okay, so what is isometric contraction? Okay, what is isometric contraction? So in isometric contraction, in yoga, all the final poses will be in isometric. Even when you perform sun salutation, that is, which is 12 steps, you do it dynamically initially, but each and every phase or pose you move, that is isotonic. But end, you retain in each and every phase of the sun salutation. When you retain your position, that means all your muscles are in isometric. What is isometric? Muscles are in same length. There is no change in the length of the muscle, but still the force is generated, right? That is isometric. Okay, I tell you some example. When you push against the wall, even I can come to this one. You say Utkatasana, right? Chair position, I think so. I'm not well versed with Yogasana, so but whatever I know, I just come out with some examples to relate biomechanics and yoga. Utkatasana. Utkatasana is half squat, right? So when you perform half squat, right, when you go down, when you remain in that position, that means your muscles are still contracting and generate force. There is no change in the length of the muscle. That is isometric contraction. But yes, and isotonic. What is isotonic? When you perform, right, half squat dynamically, in Tamil we say Topukarnam, right? When you come up and down, that is isotonic contraction. That means your muscle undergoes concentric and eccentric contraction, right? So this is very essential, because this will help you to design any yoga program scientifically. The word scientifically should be noted. Role of muscles. Okay, any muscle will take any role. Okay, so you might have heard of agonist, antagonist, right? Synergist, neutralizers, stabilizers. Here I just show you the muscle actions during it is elbow flexion. Actually, see, when you perform elbow flexion, prime mover is brachialis, right? What is brachialis? Is a muscle present in your elbow joint. Then synergist is biceps brachii. What is antagonist? Opposite mover, triceps. So for an example, when biceps is agonist, right? So agonist means brachialis as well as synergist is also a supporting muscle for this one, elbow flexion. Okay, the antagonist is opposite muscle. The opposite muscle, what it does is, it will not allow, this triceps will not allow to flex your elbow beyond certain range of motion. So that's why it is called as opposite muscle, we say. So antagonist. That's why even you can correlate. We previously we discussed about reciprocal innervation. When what is for an example, muscles always act in pairs. Quadriceps. What is the pair of quadriceps? Hamstring. When the quadriceps becomes agonist, hamstring becomes antagonist. Okay. So what is fixator? Fixator nothing but the muscle which holds, right, the scapula firmly in elbow flexion. For example, you do some biceps curl. Okay. During biceps curl, when you flex your elbow, your biceps is, right, the agonist, and your triceps is antagonist, and your shoulder joint is held constantly, right? That's why those muscles, your deltoid muscles and your rhomboid muscles, are holding your shoulder firmly. That's why it is called as fixator. And this movement is called as shoulder abduction. You people know that to abduct the shoulder, deltoid muscle is responsible. That is the agonist. What is the antagonist? Antagonist for deltoid is latissimus dorsi. Okay. Stabilizer is trapezius, because the stabilizer stabilizes the joint. Neutralizer. Stabilizer is nothing but it holds the shoulder girdle in place to so the deltoid can pull the humerus up. For any movement, certain certain muscles have to act as stabilizer. That means stabilizes the part. And so when you lift your arm up, that means during shoulder abduction, your arm should not rotate right and left. I mean, it should not pronate or supinate. Okay, so it should not go for pronation or supination. So the pronators and supinators keeps, right, and it neutralizes the unwanted movements. Any muscle which restricts the unwanted movement, those muscles are called as neutralizers. So anything is motor learning, because any movement, whether it is asana or whatever the sports skills, motor learning is nothing but, as I already told you in the beginning of the class, a child comes to this world, right, given birth by a mother, and it walks, runs, jumps, right, it performs, it learns all the activities, and it is stored in its long-term memory. The brain is having both short-term and long-term memory. Whatever the movement you perform for longer duration, automatically those those skills, those movements are in your brain, and you can perform it at any time. So like swimming, like cycling. So even if you don't cycle for 10 years after learning cycle, the moment you get a cycle, automatically you cycle or swim. So that's what the motor skills are always learned. So anybody, right? As far as movement skills are concerned, the skills can be categorized into three: locomotor skills, stability skills, manipulative skills. Okay, so you can see in yoga, you can correlate these movements with yoga. Okay, see for an example, locomotor skills, transporting the body in any direction from one point to the other. When you perform a Virabhadrasana, right? You go for forward lunge. When you go do some sun salutation, do you move your body or not? Okay, these skills are called as locomotor skills. You move your body from one position to the other. Okay, so some of the general movements I'm just telling you: walking, running, hopping, skipping, jumping for vertically, and jumping horizontally forward, dodging, sidestepping. So these are all the locomotor skills. What are they? They move your body from one position to the other. Now we come to in yoga, we perform both locomotor as well as stability. We do combined movements, locomotor and then stabilize. What is stability skills? Balancing the body in stillness and in motion. For an example, salutation, right? So you perform each and every phase of activity, right? From pranamasana, okay, then padahastasana, then when you go for mountain pose, right? So every pose you do locomotor skill and then do perform stability skill. That means balancing, landing. For better balance, I can tell you one fine example is, what is the best example for balancing?
Virabhadrasana.
In Yogasana.
Veerabhadrasana 2.
Veerabhadrasana. Okay, very good. What about Sirsasana?
Vrikshasana.
Vrikshasana.
Vrikshasana and this one, even Mayurasana. Am I right? Do you perform balancing activity during Mayurasana?
Yes.
Yes, good. Yeah. Vrikshasana.
Garudasana.
Pardon?
Garudasana.
Garudasana. Garudasana, you stand in one. But comparing, yeah, Garudasana is also a balancing activity. But comparing to these components, it is somehow, okay, less intense. And the manipulative skills. The manipulative skills, the person who said Garudasana, in Garudasana, you do some manipulation. What do? You just move your lip here and there. But here, manipulative skills are concerned. You use some implement. For example, a ball. These manipulative skills are performed only in sports. But nowadays, yoga also is being practiced with a lot of innovations. We say rope yoga. So when you perform your rope yoga, it obviously becomes you do perform locomotor activity, stability activity, as well as manipulative, because you hold the rope, right? So you have an external equipment or implement to perform an activity. So that is manipulative skills. So whenever you perform any activity in yoga, please remember whether you perform locomotor only or both locomotor and stability skill combined, and all these three, right? So this will come to you based on your practice, right? Experience and everything. So we come to mechanics of breathing, right? Mechanics of breathing. Biomechanics is always there in your body. Without biomechanics, this universe cannot sustain. Even the earth revolves are based on the biomechanics principles. Okay, so breathing, breathing is a process whereby air move in and out of your lungs, right? Our body. Inspiration, expiration. So how this would have been studied by you. The moment inspiration, expiration is uttered, you utter these words, it is called mechanics of breathing. Here itself, we have a mechanics, right? Mechanics of breathing. How this mechanics works in inhalation and exhalation. Okay, inhalation, that is inspiration, right? Breathing in is an active process. Active process is nothing but you inhale the air from the atmosphere to your lungs. How it happens? The diaphragm contracts. Contracts means there is one muscle called diaphragm under your rib cage, right? The diaphragm is functioning. This is an important muscle. This is not under our conscious control. This is functioning under autonomic nervous system. But when you see skeletal muscles, biceps, triceps, quadriceps, all these muscles are functioning under, right, peripheral nervous system. Okay, so that is voluntary nervous. I mean, these are all voluntary muscles. These muscles will function under your will. But diaphragm, it is like heart. It functions under autonomic nervous system. What is autonomic nervous system? It functions on its own. Okay, the moment the diaphragm contracts, okay, rib cage expands as the external intercostal muscles contract. So the moment rib cage expands, there is more, right, volume. That means okay, during inspiration, and the pressure is very less compared to the atmosphere. The atmospheric air is having higher pressure, and the pressure in the lungs is very less. That's why, based on the scientific principle, air moves, whether air or water, it will move always from the area of high pressure to the area of low pressure. Now the air comes in, and in expiration, it is a passive process. The diaphragm relaxes, and internal intercostal muscles are contracting. Now the volume or the area in the lungs is reduced. the pressure in the lungs is high compared to the atmospheric air. So automatically it goes out. Even if you want to hold the breath, you cannot hold it for longer time. Automatically it goes out because it is a passive process, right? So this is how you can see exhalation. Yes. Movements can be classified into open and closed chain movement. So we in biomechanics we say open kinematic chain and closed kinetic chain. What is open and closed kinetic chain? When you have contact, see any any segment will have, for an example, what is the name of this bone? Are you all there? What is the name of this bone?
Shin bone.
Tibia.
Shin bone.
Tibia. The other side is fibula. Tibia and fibula.
Fibula.
Okay, which is proximal and which is distal? Proximal is close to the body. See any muscle or see, for example, this is femur. Okay, this is my thigh bone. Any bone or muscle will have two ends, obviously. The end which is closer to the body is called as proximal. The end which is away from the body is distal. So I just show proximal, distal. Okay. So when the distal part is fixed and proximal part is moving, that is called, when the distal part is fixed. Which part is fixed here? This part is fixed, right? But which part is moving? This part is moving, right? This one is fixed as far as femur is concerned. So this one is moving. Okay. So when the distal end is fixed and proximal end is moving, that is closed kinetic chain or kinematic chain. Closed means distal end is fixed. Now, as far as this leg is concerned, all the distal end, femur distal end, tibia distal end is fixed. And which one is moving? Only the proximal end of femur, only the proximal end of tibia is moving. Okay, I just clear this drawing. And again, this is 2, the second closed chain. What is open chain? See here, in open chain, which is distal, this is distal, this is proximal. So the proximal is fixed and the distal is moving. Okay, the distal is moving. When the proximal part is fixed and distal is moving, it is called open kinetic chain. And when the distal is fixed and proximal is moving, that is closed. So whenever here, this is I think Virabhadrasana, right? So sorry, we're not Virabhadrasana, Vrikshasana. So this is in this the lower body is having closed kinetic chain, the upper body is having open kinetic chain. So whenever you perform yoga, you do please remember that whether it is closed kinetic movement or open kinetic movement based on fixation of distal segment. Now,
Sir, can you please explain the upper
it is,
part again?
see, pardon?
Can you please explain the upper portion once again? Because you told it is
Upper
the
portion. Okay. Fine,
Yeah.
fine. See, for an example, this one is, what is the movement of your arm? You are extending your arm, right? What is the movement happening? Where the movement happens?
I
Which
think
joint?
on the forearm.
Shoulder joint. So I just tell you, always mention joint and then bone. Okay, the movement is happening. See, because when you say bone, right? See, here we have 3 major joints. Though we have metacarpal, intercarpal joints are there, but as far as movement is concerned, we come out with 3 joints: wrist joint, elbow joint, shoulder joint. But the movement is happening in the shoulder joint because elbow joint is fixed, wrist joint is fixed. See, you can see here open chain. What is open chain? right? The movements in which the distal end moves freely. Which is distal end? This is the distal end of your humerus. Which is the proximal end? This is the proximal end. So distal end is moving, proximal end is fixed. Okay, so distal end is moving freely, then proximal end is fixed. But here in closed kinetic chain, distal end is fixed, but proximal distal is here and proximal end is moving. Do you understand? So we move on to the next one. So, this information has been gathered from Muscles of Hatha Yoga. So you can see, if you read the textbook, you will be very thorough with all the muscles and kinesiological concepts. Here, the front of knee flexes, right? The number 1. Can you see here? So when you see this movement in biomechanics perspective, what you are supposed to do is, you are supposed to perform, see the number 1. Where is the number 1? This is number 1. What? The front knee flexes. What is the name of this one? Front knee flexes. Then the second one, the front hip flexes. The third one, the back hip. The hip is extending. So that's why I told you the knowledge of kinesiology, anatomy, right? All this stuff is planes, movements, joints, all this stuff is essential here. So I just move on as since there is lack of time.
Sir, one doubt in this here.
Yeah.
So the whole weight is at the back leg. So how we are deciding my back leg has to balance it? Whether extension end has to balance?
Okay. See, during this posture, right, the weight is evenly distributed. Okay. So the thing is, you should see the symmetrical portion. Okay. For some of the movements, we will not have symmetry. You are supposed to keep the body weight in one limb. But as far as this one is concerned, if you take this one, see, a body is balanced. Body weight is here as well as here. So it is distributed on both the legs, right? If you see, your question, I understood. If you keep the whole body weight on the rear leg, your body will not be in straight position automatically. It will be pushed towards the weight which you bring towards. That means backward side. So you're trying to balance your body because this is a balancing activity automatically. So you proportionately hold the body weight in front leg as well as back leg. But as far as front leg is concerned, you just see the knee is flexed, right? In this, your body muscles are strengthened in isometric contraction. Even during stretching, a muscle can be strengthened. That can only happen in asanas. That is why in exercise, when I kick a football, only my quadriceps will function and I'll strengthen my quadriceps during leg extension. But here, the advantage of asana is, right, even you can strengthen your muscle not only in isotonic, also in isometric. Even when the muscle is stretched, still it can be strengthened. Still it can generate force. That is the science behind this. So this slide, just I hope you have, as a yoga professional, you are supposed to, right, analyze any movement like this, right? The front lower limb, right? The rear limb, the trunk, the shoulder joint, the wrist, and the head. You just see the neck and head rotate. Whether it is rotated towards the right side or not. Yes, the arms abduct. Both the arms are abducted. So this is, see, I am just coming with ABC of biomechanics, because if I tell you, if I just come out with biomechanics subject directly, definitely you people may not understand in the first class itself. That's why my intention is to teach you the ABC of biomechanics, right? The fundamental concepts behind biomechanics, right? Once you are thorough with this information, definitely you can apply the principles of biomechanics later on. Right. Can you see here? Padahastasana, you say? Am I right?
Rajni sir, sorry to interrupt. Can we connect
Yeah.
once again so that the interactive session can be done with the participants if they have any doubts? Yes,
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you, sir. Thank you.
Sure. I'm ready for any how many I mean number of ready connections. No problem. I'm free only.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So we can yeah. So we have 3 minutes left, I think. Yeah, right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay. So this is Padhastasana. So now I have told you so far I have everything with regard to the basic concepts of biomechanics. Now you people as yoga professionals, you should tell me, right? Right? Now just I show the muscle, I will indicate the muscle. You should tell me whether it contracts or stretches, relaxes. Okay? Whether it contracts or relaxes. Relaxes means, that means it is being stretched. I just give an arrow mark. Okay. Now the muscle name is already mentioned, hamstrings. In this posture, whether the muscle is shortening or lengthening. I want some answers from you.
Lengthening.
Extended, sir.
Yes, very good. Very good. So the muscle stretches, lengthens. Okay. When the hamstring lengthens, what is the opposite muscle?
Quadriceps.
Quadriceps. We already studied about reciprocal innervation. When agonist contracts, antagonist?
Contracts.
Contracts.
When the agonist contracts, antagonist relaxes. Okay. Now hamstring is being stretched. That means relaxes. And this pair is shortening, contracting. Because what is the movement of knee here? Knee is flexed or extended?
Extended.
Extended. For extension of knee, which muscle has to shorten?
Quadriceps.
Yeah, perfect. So quadriceps is shortening, right? Knee is extended while the hamstrings is relaxed. So in this posture, you are stretching your hamstrings, you are stretching your gastrocnemius, and you are stretching your spinal muscles. See, all muscles are stretched here, but which muscles are contracted? Which muscles are responsible for flexing your trunk forward? One is here, you can see the elbow joint, shoulder joint, and then trunk. To flex your trunk, to move your trunk forward, which muscles are responsible?
My gluteus.
When you want to go forward, to move your trunk forward, which muscle is responsible?
Hip muscles.
Pardon?
My
Spine
latissimus.
Is it hip muscles, sir?
No.
Spine.
My back muscle latissimus.
In chat, tell me we have 10 minutes. Can we? Okay, we'll connect. No problem. So when it is disconnected, I'll reconnect and we will join. No problem. So we'll move on. See, you people are sitting in front of your laptop, right? You just stand up, you perform this asana, and you just feel where you feel the contraction of the muscles. Which portion is shortening? You just tell me.